No, we're gonna piss some people off with that one. Oh, no. Who isn't at least a teensy bit claustrophobic, you know? And who doesn't have at least just a little bit of Catholic guilt, you know? So it really just, I'm giving the vibe a... Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. We're your Backasswords boys. I'm Kyle.
I'm Arden, and this week we watched As Above, So Below, and tonight we are going to be putting it up against the internet's most scientifically accurate horror movie rating scale.
That's right. Hold on to your asses, because things are about to get backwards. The love child of National Treasure and The Descent, As Above, So Below is a claustrophobic journey to the literal center of hell a la Dante's Inferno, dragging viewers past the bottom of the Paris Catacombs to see what secrets each character holds while on the search for the elusive Philosopher's Stone.
And I feel like now would just be a really good time to let you folks know. Spoiler alert, spoiler alert, spoiler alert. We are going to be spoiling As Above, So Below tonight. So if you have not seen this film, go watch it and then come back.
And guys, we're going to start with one of the strongest showings for this film, in my personal opinion, the directing. And man, is the directing on this film really cool. Right from the start, we get this very, very cool, like almost guerrilla filmmaking style that lends itself very well to this found footage horror genre in general. Right off the bat, one of the things everyone's going to tell you about this movie that talks about this movie on YouTube is that this is one of the first movies, the first movie to get permission from the Parisian government to film in the Paris Catacombs. Super duper cool. And they really, really took advantage of that in a lot of different ways, some of which we'll get to later in our discussion here. But because of the restraints that this imposed, 80 to 90% of what we see in the movie was shot by the actors, because getting a full film crew down into the catacombs is completely impossible. It really gives it a really gritty, earthy, down in the dirt vibe. I loved it. The directing, I am giving a 9.7.
I agree with everything that Kyle just said. The directing of this film is really, really well done. I think that this movie does a really good job in terms of kind of resetting and redefining what the bar is for found footage horror films. So for that reason, I'm going to start off with a 9.6 for the directing. Which brings us to the writing of this film. And we're going to kind of take a little dip here, folks, if we're being honest with you. Some of the dialogue in this movie is pretty cheesy, I would say, especially the love story that emerges between two of the characters in the film. I will say, however, that I did really like how they incorporated the mythology and archaeology and alchemy into the script. There were a lot of mysteries that were kind of uncovered and a lot of like riddles that they had to solve throughout the film, which I thought was really fun. Overall, I would say that the script is not really the focus of the storytelling, but it does do a really good job in supporting the story. So I'm coming in at an 8.1 for the writing.
Yeah, the writing in this movie really speaks to a very specific niche of interests for me. I really loved the blending of this like alchemist mythos and the Dante's Inferno retelling that we get here. You know, yeah, we get a little bit of like Mary Sue-ism, where the characters always know the perfect answer to the exact question that these people came up with fucking 600 years ago. But you know what? It's an adventure mystery horror movie. There's going to be a little bit of that, and I freaking loved it. I'm giving it a little bit higher at an 8.3. And the cinematography, oh, the cinematography. I loved the collaborative aspect of the cinematography. Like I said, it was almost all shot by the actors themselves, which gives the footage a very real feeling, because the camera is sitting not where the best shot necessarily might be from, but where the camera would actually be sitting where someone was just filming it with their hands, you know? Really, really cool. I loved the cinematography. I'm giving it a 9.7.
I agree wholeheartedly with what Kyle just said. And I feel like I would even take it a step further. This is one of the things that I was mentioning in the directing, where I think that the cinematography in particular in this film is one of the things that redefines what found footage has the potential to be in horror. And I think one of the ways that they do this in this film is that even though it's found footage, and with what Kyle just said, this is where the camera actually would be, they actually do a really good job of playing with some more horror elements, like seeing things moving behind characters at some points during the film, which, if you compare this to another genre defining found footage film, The Blair Witch Project, a movie where famously you can see nothing that's going on the entire time. You just get a shot of a lot of people being scared and that close up of her face, which is on the poster. This movie is a definite improvement in that regard. So for that reason, I am also coming in at a 9.7 for the cinematography. And now moving on to the music and the sound design in this movie. And I got to be honest with you folks, not a lot of music in this one, a surprisingly lack of music in this one. But what they don't have in music, I think they make up for almost tenfold in sound design. The sound design was one of the stronger points of this, and a lot of it was genuinely horrifying. The choir that's at the beginning of this film is genuinely a terrifying soundbite. And I also think that something that is really strong about the sound design in this movie is how they play with proximity to the camera and proximity to other characters. How far away someone is from the camera is kind of important in this movie, especially because it is a spelunking movie. And so for that reason, I'm coming in at a 9.2 for the music sound design.
Yeah, like Arden said, not a lot of music to be found in this one, but honestly, in my opinion, I think really any kind of music would take away from this movie, be it an 80s synth horror soundtrack or a more modern kind of orchestral one. It doesn't really matter. I think the silence is almost environmental in this movie, right? Where they are so deep down, you don't have cell phone service, you're not getting freaking Spotify. You know what I mean? It's gonna be quiet down in the Paris catacombs, and so it's a quiet movie in the background for the majority of the film. Like Arden really nailed it. The sound design though is fantastic. You get the echoes of characters speaking from around the corner. You get these the whispers under the breath that no one else can hear because the camera is mounted, on their forehead right here. Fantastic work with some of that stuff. Really, really cool. I'm giving the sound design a 9.1.
But I do feel like this moves us on to a semi-important question for this movie. There is a lack of music, but I do just have to ask, Kyle, is anything from the 5 songs that are on this movie soundtrack making it on your playlist?
Not not really any of the songs specifically from the movie, although I do want to give a little shout out to In This Moment. Their song As Above So Below plays with a little bit of the themes that we touch on in this movie, and obviously shares the title. So definitely a fun one, and that one might make it on the playlist.
There you go.
We'll see. And the acting, guys, tale as old as time with horror on this one. Honestly, it's probably the weakest point. Nothing bad at all about it, though. No one really shines in this movie, but they all act like a person would, given the circumstances that these characters are in. Nothing offensive, nothing to write home about. The acting gets an 8.0.
One of the only things that I would mention in terms of acting moments from this film is Edwin Hodges' performance as Benji. He's not winning best performance, so don't worry, we're not getting ahead of ourselves here, right? But there is a moment that he has. I consider this to be an Oscar-worthy moment where he is stuck in that little passageway through the cave that they're going through. I think he portrays that with such a beautiful vulnerability that really stuck out to Kyle and I. However, I agree with Kyle that it is the weaker point of the movie, so for that reason, I am also coming in at an 8.0. And now moving on to the effects in this movie. And folks, once again, we find ourselves in a circumstance where a movie is doing the right thing, and it's using a lot of practical effects with very small CGI touch-ups, and I feel like you can tell in this movie. There's a lot of really good practical effects. There is one in particular that I have to bring up that isn't as great, and that is when Benji falls down the hole and dies. That dummy looks dummy, is what I will say. But for the most part, the effects are really well done in this movie. I'm giving them an 8.7.
Dude, they fucking dragged an actual car into the actual Paris catacombs, put an actual person inside of it, and had actual fire coming out of it. The effects are actually wild. I'm giving them a 9.0.
The car is it is amazing.
It's so
I will
freaking
say
good,
it's
dude.
so good.
And that brings me to the vibe of this movie. And this is where this movie really stands out. I think it's where it stands on its own. They do a great job with like the adventure movie vibes in kind of the first half. And when that switch gets flipped, you feel invested enough to actually keep following the characters. And it covers up those kind of cheesy aspects of it really, really well. They absolutely nail the runtime on this one. 93 minutes. And I will say they earn the extra 3 minutes there 150 times over. I'm giving the vibe a 10 out of 10. Love the vibe.
I think Kyle summarized this perfectly. Despite maybe some lackluster performance moments or maybe some lackluster script writing, the story that this tells is very cohesive. It's very intentional. It's very well thought out, and it comes across in a found footage format. And I think this is why, once again, this movie has kind of, for me at the very least, redefined what potential the found footage horror category has. So I'm giving the vibe a 10 out of 10. Excellent work. I loved it.
But that does leave us one important question. Arden, can you put this movie on at your Halloween party?
The answer is yes, and I'll tell you why. It's something that we've mentioned a little bit with some other films, but I feel like the corniness of the script and even the corniness of the acting kind of lends itself to this being an easy one to throw on at the Halloween party. Also, perhaps the lack of music is also helpful in the Halloween party instance. This might be a movie that you can be more sociable, more chatty with your guests and with the other people who are at the party with you. So I'm giving it an absolute bona fide yes. You can throw this on at the Halloween party.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe because it's just one of my favorite horror movies of all time. I don't know if you guys can tell that quite yet, but yeah, no, this is like top of the pile as far as horror movies for the Halloween party. It plays on, I mean, who isn't at least a teensy bit claustrophobic, you know? So, and who doesn't have at least just a little bit of Catholic guilt, you know? So it really just plays into something that everyone can feel. And absolutely, this one's getting played at the Halloween party.
And now moving on to the scares and the kills in this movie. And we're staying in a pretty solid category here, folks. Kyle and I got to experience what I think is one of the best jump scares, at least one of the jump scares that caught me the most off guard in a movie. And it's actually the jump scare that happens right before Benji's death, which we mentioned earlier when we were talking about one of the weaker effects. But the jump scare predecessing that kind of weaker effect is one of my favorite parts of the movie. I was so scared when that jump scare happened. There are also some brutal kills in As Above, So Below, which this is the second time I've seen this movie. I did not remember how brutal these kills were. Two in particular that I want to mention is Suxi's death, where she approaches Latope.
Yes.
Oh my God. That one really caught me off guard. I think that one might be the best kill in the movie, if you're asking me personally.
I think you might be right about that one.
And then I would also like to mention Pap's death, which Kyle mentioned with the flaming car. Particularly the aspect of him being buried upside down in the ground, and that's the way that he dies. absolutely brutal concept. I really like the scares and the kills in this movie. I'm coming in at an 8.5. Really nice.
One of the more underrated scares, I think, in this one, it's not a jump scare, it's just a more bone chilling scare. For me, a lot of people do not agree with this. It's actually a lot of people hate this moment in the movie. But the devil on his throne in the very bottom of hell, to me, just there's something about it where it hits, maybe it's an uncanny valley thing, but oh, I just do not like it at all. In that moment, I also love how you can almost feel how cold it is, right? Because that's one of the things. The very center of hell, especially in Dante's Inferno, is not hot, it's cold. And representing, the separation from Christ, all this, whatever. But they just do such a good job. I'm giving the scares and kills a 9.2. And that brings us to our special category for this movie. And it might kind of be just the one for all of our spelunking horror movies here, all like 5 of them. But that's going to be the overall claustrophobia of this movie, because we've mentioned it several times. It's one of the big themes of the movie. Obviously, we're down in these caves in the Paris Catacombs, and one of the main adversaries is the tight spaces that we're dealing with here. I specifically want to shout out the moment that Arden was talking about earlier, when Benji is crawling over the bones, is just agonizing. Honestly, it almost feels like we're watching like a personal, intimate moment where someone's like having a panic attack, and it goes on for it's definitely at least a minute, if not 2, and it feels like 5. It's wonderfully executed. I'm giving the claustrophobia in this movie a 9.6.
I also think that something that adds to the claustrophobia of this movie is you have scenes like that with Benji being trapped with the bones, right? But then you also have these huge, wide open spaces in this movie in the Paris Catacombs that really juxtapose those more claustrophobic moments, which I think accentuates them. And so for that reason, I'm coming in just a little bit higher than Kyle. I'm coming in at a 9.6. I felt very claustrophobic in this movie, I can tell you that. And now moving on to our awards for the evening. We will be giving out 2 awards tonight, and as always, we are going to start with the best performance. And again, the acting isn't the strongest part of this movie, but Kyle and I did decide on Francois Civil, and I hope that I'm saying his name right, who plays Pap in this movie. Particularly, I think one of the strongest moments of acting from him is the moment that he realizes that he has led the group in a circle.
I'm sorry. I'm Benji. I'm sorry.
Calm down.
Listen to me. This doesn't go here.
Okay,
this is the tunnel. There is no turns. There is no turns. This is straight. And I don't understand.
His recognition of that and his reckoning of that in that moment was really effectively done. And so he's getting our best performance award tonight.
And again, I don't know if you can tell yet, but best effect for this movie, arguably the most coveted award in all of the Backass Words Boys channel here, is the car. Oh my goodness. It's one of my favorite horror movie effects, honestly. It breaks the top 10, I think.
Oh wow.
If not for just the story behind it, again, I will reiterate, they literally dragged a car into the Paris Catacombs and lit it on fire. That's just objectively cool. I don't know what else to tell you, except that we're going to go do some math, and we'll be right back.
5 hours later.
And we're back. We have done the math. We have calculated our final scores for you. I came in at a 9.0 for this movie.
I came in just a squidge higher at a 9.2. And for those of you that can do math, Arden, that gives us a
9.5. 6.1.
That's right.
Back asswards cumulative score.
Oh, fuck. Did we get the...
We didn't even pull these. 6.3 on IMDb.
29% on Rotten Tomatoes? Yo.
Whoa.
Yo.
That is
Leave this in, Arden. That is absolutely
I know. I think
foul.
I will.
I'm shocked right now. I get it. We're the fucking dick riding movie review channel. Like, I get that.
Whatever. We're nice, okay?
Oh my goodness. That might be one of the largest that has to be the largest discrepancy between us and
That
Rotten
is
Tomatoes.
a huge discrepancy.
Wow.
A 29%. That's crazy.
Gosh.
So for those of you who have been following the channel for a while, this I feel like kind of puts As Above, So Below in an interesting placement. This puts it at now our number 6 rating, in between The Thing at a 9.35 and The Shining at a 9.0.
Oh, no. We're going to piss some people off with that one. Oh, no.
This
And
might be the
guess
first
what?
one.
I stand by it. I would rather watch As Above, So Below than The Shining.
This might be the first one that I actually feel weird about.
Really?
Kyle and I have been reviewing movies for a while now, and usually we're kind of on the same page with this cumulative list. That feels a little weird to me, having As
Really?
Above, So Below above The Shining. Yeah.
Interesting.
Ooh, I mean, I did mention it 3 times about how this is kind of a new bar for found footage horror, so
Yeah.
I can give it credit there. That does feel a little weird, it being above The Shining. I'm kind of getting hung up on that, if I'm being honest with you.
I don't know. I stand by it personally. I love this movie. This is one that I recommend to a lot of people, actually. Like,
They do. Kyle does recommend this movie very often. I can vouch for this.
So, if you haven't watched it, please go do it. And thank you for watching this video. We appreciate it so very much. You really don't even know. Hit the bell, subscribe, do all of those things. If you liked it, like, comment, and subscribe. And if you didn't like it, like, comment, and subscribe. I'm Kyle.
I'm Arden, and we'll see you next week.
Stay safe.
Stay weird.
Catacombs. Oh my God.
No!
Okay. I brush my teeth and I sip, drink. It's pearly white and look the same.
Yeah. That's so good.